Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our April 2nd, 2015 regular monthly meeting of the school board for Danville Public Schools. I call the meeting to order and ask that the roll of the members be called.
Ms. Bryant, Dr. Campbell.
Present.
Ms. Stones, Mr. Gould,
Here.
Mrs. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Hughes, Dr. Paul Hamus.
Here. All right, you have an agenda before you. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Hall with a second from Dr. Campbell to approve the agenda for tonight. Any discussion? All right, then please call the roll.
Mr. Gould,
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
All right. For our invocation and pledge of allegiance, it's my turn. So, if you will, please. Dear Lord, we have gathered this evening to take actions for the good of all the children of this community. We seek to represent with grace and dignity those who have selected us for this task. May our collective efforts be aimed at improving the future of this place, be guided by respect for all, and be blessed with divine wisdom. We pray in the name of the Almighty. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. You have a set of minutes for approval this evening. It includes the school board retreat from February 11th, the March 5th discipline meeting, the March 5th regular meeting, March 19th discipline meeting, and March 19th work session. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Second. We have a motion from Dr. Campbell with a second from Mr. Gould to approve these 5 sets of minutes. Any discussion? All right, Ms. Jordan, please call the roll.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus.
Yes. Thank you very much. We now move to our consent items. Tonight, that will consist solely of the recommendations from the hearing panel on discipline. There are 14 cases there. Are there any requests to pull any of those for specific discussion? Seeing none, this is a consent item. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent items.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Hall with a second from Dr. Campbell to approve the consent items as presented. Any discussion? All right, then please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now we turn to the fun part of our meetings. We get to do some recognitions. And the first one that we're going to do today is a recognition that applies to the entire month of April. And Ms. Sandra Arnn, the media specialist from Forest Hills Elementary, has the resolution that she will read on behalf of the board. Thank you, Ms. Arnn.
Thank you, and I've asked Ms. Robertson from GW to come and
Yeah.
be with me. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board in honor of School Library Media Month. As a 29-year veteran teacher of the Danville Public Schools and a product of the Danville Public School system, it is a privilege to stand before you and represent my colleagues. Sadly, one of our colleagues is not present tonight. Several weeks ago, Carolyn Booth, a media specialist at George Washington High School, was taken ill and died. Carolyn was completing her 29th year of teaching in Danville, a tenure which included Taylor Elementary, GLH Johnson, Westmoreland, Gibson, Westwood, and finally GWHS. Think of the hundreds of lives that Carolyn touched in the Danville community. She was looking forward to her retirement at the end of our school year. I would like to dedicate the reading of our proclamation tonight to the honor of Carolyn's years of teaching, dedication, and her service, and also to her memory as our dedicated friend. The proclamation. Whereas the quest for knowledge by school students in Virginia is stimulated and developed through the use of educational resources and services provided by the school library. And whereas school library programs provide access to a wide variety of educational materials, such as books, magazines, audio, videotapes, computer software, information databases, as well as technology needed to use these resources. And whereas the school library program provides learning activities designed to enhance reading motivation and establish the information literacy skills needed for lifelong learning. And whereas the full potential of school library programs is dependent upon trained professional school librarians whose skills assist teachers and students in effectively using this wide range of information resources. And whereas it is fitting that this special recognition be given to our school library programs and the role of our school library media specialist in education throughout the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Now therefore, the Danville School Board has recognized that April 2015 be observed as School Library Month in the Commonwealth of Virginia as declared by our Governor, Terrence R. McAuliffe. Signed the 19th day of March 2015, Dr. Edward Polhamus, Chairman of the School Board, Dr. Kathy Osborne, Acting Superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arnn. Are there other school librarians or media specialists in the crowd tonight?
I don't believe there are, as this is Maundy Thursday and we have some
Understood.
conflicts tonight.
Of course. Thank you so much, Ms. Arnn.
Thank you.
And please tell your colleagues all around the division how much we appreciate the work of our librarians and media specialists.
Thank you.
All right, we now move to a really nifty recognition, and Ms. Smith, our Chief Academic Officer, is going to kick this one off.
And I also have the principal of Westwood with me as well, because this is an exciting time as we are celebrating a great opportunity for Danville Public Schools and for one of our students who's going to be representing us in the region for the National Script Spelling Bee. We are very honored, as we did make the news on Wednesday, April the 1st, with Caleb Adams, and pictured with him is his mother as well as the principal, discussing his win with the regional spelling bee with Danville Public Schools. Caleb is a 7th grader at Westwood Middle School, and he is leading the way for us as he gets ready to travel to Washington, D.C. at the end of May to compete with hundreds of other young boys and girls in the National Script Spelling Bee. At this time, I would like to turn it over to his principal to say a couple of words about him, and then we're going to meet Mr. Adams, who will be representing the Danville Public School System.
If I could have Caleb and his mom to come up, please. Dr. Paul Hamus and the school board and Dr. Osborne, I'm going to try to be brief, but I make no guarantees. I'm one proud principal. I have not stopped smiling. Mom has not stopped smiling. And Caleb just kind of looks at us like, really? I'm a little over this. I told his mother, because this is Caleb's 3rd year as being the school spelling bee champion. He was in 5th grade at Forest Hills, 6th grade champion at Westwood, and now 7th grade champion at Westwood. And I told his mother, I said, this is the year. I said, we are going to DC.
Wow.
And I just claimed it and knew that this was going to be our year. And one of the greatest things about Caleb is we're wearing blue, because today is National Wear Blue Day in recognition of Autism Awareness Day. Caleb is one of the finest young men you will ever come to know. Caleb is also his own advocate. I wish you could have been at the spelling bee, because he was very quick to say, could you repeat that? Can you give me an alternate pronunciation? But he was also very quick to say, no, there is an alternate pronunciation for that word. So I think he was, oh yes, we're very proud of that. You know, it's tragic to me, this is my 20th year in education, that there's not enough stories printed about all the good
Right.
that goes on in our school system. And this is one of the brightest spots and one of the brightest human beings you will ever come to know in your life. It's a smile every morning, even though he's rushing as he walks by me, because he doesn't have time to dilly-dally in the hallway. He must go to class. As he told me today, I said, Caleb, I have my blue on, and he said, well, Ms. Dawson, my grade level does not lend itself to wearing blue. That will be for next year, you see. He will very quickly school you in no uncertain terms. But so much of Caleb's strength and his geniusness, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Mom, comes from his mother and his father, who are his true supporters and his true advocates. His mother, there's any number of parents who call and talk to Miss Adams about situations with autism and get information, and she is just a true resource and a true gem, and I thank her every day for letting us educate and work with her son, because he is one of the brightest spots that we have in Danville Public Schools. And if you will allow Caleb, do you have anything you would like to say? Okay.
I am very proud of myself for winning 3 years in a row and winning the game to go Washington D.C. also. Of course, I have wanted, as she said, I wanted a school spelling bee ever since I've been in 5th grade in Forest Hills. And also, I'm in the advanced group, and thus, and the Honor Society, yes. And also the vice president of said group. And I thank you all for honoring me.
Why don't we get Caleb and his mother and the others right up here in front of us?
The mother wants to say something.
You want to speak? Yeah. Absolutely.
Just appreciate you guys taking the time to honor him tonight. And, oh, do you have something else you'd like to say?
She said I need a picture.
Oh, okay. Back up here. He's worked hard. He's, last year he only made 1 B the entire year.
Wow.
So, he really applies
Wow.
himself very hard, and we're just glad to be representing Westwood in the National Spelling Bee. I'm very proud of him. He's a great kid.
Excellent. Can we get principal, the mother, and the star right up here at the center of the board? And I'm going to shake your hand. Let's do it this way. You look that way. We're going to get pictures that everybody can be proud of, the accomplishments of Caleb. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well done, sir. We'll be rooting for you all. Excellent indeed. All right, let's see here. We now move to an action item from Human Resources, and I presume that Ms. Whittle will be doing that since Dr. Jennings is out with a family situation. Welcome, Ms. Whittle.
Thank you. It's a hard act to follow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Hamus, and good evening to everyone. The Department of Human Resources has prepared for your review the personnel recommendations for our board meeting in April. If you would take a few minutes to review them, and if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
All right. I have a question on case 02, on that request for retirement. It
Yes.
specifies the individual is eligible for ERIP.
Yes.
Did the individual meet the normal deadline in January?
No.
Did not. All right. Then we'll want to probably take some separate action there to make sure we handle that properly. All right. Board members, do you have other questions on any of the personnel recommendations? All right, then I believe because of the ERIP situation, why don't we deal with that case first? Case 02?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
in personnel case 02, I move that we approve the retirement but hold the ERIP participation request until the board determines the future direction of ERIP.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Gould, second from Ms. Hall, to approve the retirement, but to hold the request for ERIP until the board determines the future direction of that program. All right, everyone understand the wording on the motion? All right, any discussion? All right, then if you will, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes. All right, and now for the remaining personnel items.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the remaining recommendations.
Second.
All right, thank you. The motion from Mr. Gould, second from Dr. Campbell, to approve the remaining personnel recommendations. Any discussion? All right, then please call the roll.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Whittle.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the public hearing on the proposed budget for the school year ending June 30th of 2016. This is the second draft, and so we will call to the podium Ms. Cassada to give us a brief overview of any changes since draft one, and we'll make some comments, and then we'll open it to the public.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Hamus. Good evening, everyone. Draft 2 was presented to the full board on March the 19th at your work session, and I will just highlight those things that were changed after Draft 1. There were additions or changes to Draft 2. Under new initiatives for the 15-16 school year, under instruction, there was the additional ESL teacher added. That brings the division-wide staffing to 4 ESL teachers for $57,065. There was the addition of an athletic coordinator for the middle and high school athletic programs for $66,043. There was a slight change to the amount listed under Human Resources. The new initiatives for increases to the teacher salary schedule for steps 0 through 3 to promote recruitment efforts. Just a little bit difference there from our original estimate when we actually plugged in current positions. Under administrative services and in the new initiatives, those line items for safety and security projects actually reduced by $27,400, and that was, we moved those programs into current year budget funding for just one-time startup costs, not recurring operating costs for those projects. The items remaining there are for the yearly cost of those projects. Under savings and cost avoidance, there was a slight change to the reduction to the VRS rates. When the final General Assembly budget was adopted, there was a slight change in the rates in that budget, and we reflected those there. In the same way, the increases to state funding changed a little bit when we got the final numbers from the General Assembly. And then our final look at our 10% reductions, please excuse me, to non-salary related line items and technical adjustments did increase a little bit from draft 1. So the total savings and cost avoidance was $1,764,535 in draft 2. So I'll be happy to answer any questions or just open it up for public comment.
All right, questions from board members? Mr. Gould.
One quick question, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Cassida, the athletic coordinator position, the price tag there, that is inclusive of benefits?
It is. That is salary and benefits. It is also reflects a reduction in our normal budget that we have for 14-15. We had an amount budgeted for the middle school coordinator, which would not be necessary any longer if this position were employed. So that was net of that amount as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can you just give me just a little bit more information about the health insurance?
Yes. In draft 1, we mentioned that our renewal rate for our health insurance was a 3% premium increase, which was well below what the industry average is right now, but it was still an increase. But we were advised that if we could make a small change to our what is called stop-loss coverage, which is our maximum coverage we have to pay on any particular person and their claims, if we can make a small adjustment there, we can offset that increase to premiums, which basically means what we're presenting here in draft 2 is that there will be no increase to our budget for health costs, nor will there be an increase passed along to our employees. So it will stay exactly the same as it was in 14-15.
But basically all of the benefits?
The benefits have not changed at all. They would, the small change that we're making does not affect anybody's individual benefits.
Thank you.
So just to repeat that for complete clarity, there will be no increase in the premiums for folks who stay on the same type of coverage that they currently have.
That's our plan. That is what's in draft 2. Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, other questions or comments from board members?
Well, I would just like to say I'm glad to hear that.
We were too.
And I'm sure that employees feel the same way. That's so important. So thank you so much.
Now, one of the things that was on our radar early in the planning towards this upcoming budget was the entering retirement in phases, the ERIP plan. And just as in draft 1, draft 2 does not show any additional costs or less costs. So I think we need to explain to folks where we are at this point with that and why that means there's no impact on the budget. So let me see if I can summarize it, and then I'll ask other board members to chime in. At our retreat earlier this winter, we looked at a lot of different alternatives. Ms. Cassida and Dr. Osborne and other staff provided us with all the numbers we could possibly have needed to really begin to come to grips with what to do about ERIP. But before we left that day, through some informal straw polls of the 7 board members, there was, I would say, complete unanimity that we all felt a strong obligation to our current retirees who are participants in the ERIP plan, so that the board does not intend to make any change for current participants, ones actually receiving those benefits. The next question that we grappled with was what to do about this year's cycle of potential participants. And again, with almost complete unanimity, the board members felt that when a staff member has been planning ahead and is right on the verge of making their decision to go out with ERIP, that we need to honor their planning and allow them to have precisely the benefits that they had expected. So again, in a straw poll, the board decided essentially that this year's requests for ERIP retirement, if they were in by the established deadlines, would be honored at the current levels of benefit for these new participants. So for those two groups, I trust that tonight is bringing great news. When we had our employee input session over at Bonner Middle School about the ERIP issue that went about, 2.5 hours, I believe. The bulk of the issues raised seemed to be mostly about those who are already on the program. So we trust that tonight's information will let folks rest a little easier, that we're not going to pull the rug out from those who are already involved. As far as what we do with folks who have not applied by the January deadline this year, that we really have not come to anything close to a consensus. We are grappling with some issues, and the participants at Bonner helped us see the issues more clearly from their points of view. For instance, the long-standing practice of reimbursing unused sick leave at the rate of $15 per day has major impact in how folks can plan toward their long-term retirement. So this board is committed to working with the various kinds of issues that have been presented to us, and we also feel an obligation to the taxpayers and to our younger employees to make sure that we don't let the costs of ERIP get so large that it starts detracting from what we're trying to do in the classrooms from year to year. So right now, current participants receiving benefits, no problem. The ones who applied this year to retire within the deadline specified, no problem. They'll get exactly what they anticipated. Beyond that, at this point, we can't really say. So, other board members want to clarify or add to that in any way? All right, and Ms. Cassida, do you want to add anything about the fiscal impact of some of those decisions we're still facing?
The decisions that you just outlined really have no fiscal impact on next year's budget.
Right.
It would just dwindle away after that. We would be able to add funds back into the budget over the next 6 years. That's what the effect of those decisions would be.
Exactly. So that's why there's no savings from ERIP this year, nor additional cost to the budget. All right, anything else on that topic? All right, any other parts of the budget that board members want to ask questions or make comments? All right, then we will now open the public hearing on the second draft of our budget. And while Ms. Cassida is going to sit down, that's perfectly fine, but she is on call to help answer questions. So, anyone here in the audience tonight wish to speak to the board about any part of our current draft 2 budget? Okay, well, there will be a draft 3, and there'll be another public hearing for that one. So stay tuned for any final tweaks that we do through the Budget Committee with Ms. Cassidy's wonderful help. All right, then we now move to the part of our agenda that allows and encourages public comments on any item that may be relevant to Danville Public Schools. As we were getting ready to start, I was told no one had signed up back in the back, but that is not an absolute requirement. So if there's anyone in the audience tonight that would like to address us on any issue, please come right on to the lectern. All right, come right ahead.
Greetings, board, staff. My name is Bruce Hedrick with SouthsideCentral.com. Previously, I came to the board in public hearing and asked possibly if the board would consider moving the meetings towards the city council chambers for increased visibility, transparency, and all the amenities that are in there that aren't here. I understand that the board has gone lukewarm on that one, and I understand it's the board's prerogative. However, I've got to say, I'm quite disappointed on that, based on the benefits that there would have been for the public to increase this. I ask that the board reconsider this decision and think about the added benefits. I also think about the additional cost that would come to the school system if there became an aggrieved party that decided to file an Americans with Disabilities Act to complain about that, including someone just like me who just went through ankle surgery as well too. I found it difficult at times to maneuver the steps, and theoretically I could have been an aggrieved party making that action, and that type of litigation is an expense that you just can't handle when it comes to tough budgetary times. A move to the city council chambers, which are ready to go, everything for that, eliminates that, plus it gives all of the spectators and staff, and other people as well too, public restrooms that are ready to go with it. So I do strongly urge that the board reconsider this for the reasons I've said otherwise, and also for the potential of litigation on an ADA from an aggrieved party. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do not normally respond to comments made during the public comments period, but for this particular issue, I would like to point out that this space within this building is in fact handicap accessible, but it's not labeled sufficiently to make that clear to a person who might need it.
Yeah, no, I don't want back and forth. I just saw, my main objection to that was when I saw Carrie Ash having to be carried up those steps, and with the elevator not being available for that part, that was the part that I saw that I found to be disappointing. Again, not trying to go back and forth, but when I saw 3 people having to carry Ash up the steps, I said, something's got to give there. And the night where people had to try to find the bathrooms during the long meetings too. But again, not go back and forth, I just went forward.
Right. Yes, indeed. And the restrooms, while they're not really in a public location, they are accessible here relatively easily from this room. So if anyone ever needs a restroom while at one of our meetings, just, let a staff person know and we'll direct you to the right spot. As far as the advantages that have been claimed of moving back to council chambers over in the municipal building, one of the supposed advantages that I have read online is that it gives us a better control over the space, I think it was stated, which is kind of strange because the primary reason that we meet here now is that when we shared that space with council, we were frequently bumped from our normal meeting nights when they had special meeting needs. And also the physical distance from our central office staff offices and files to the municipal building, that could prove problematic at times. But we're very much aware of your interest in that. We know there are several others who support what you are promoting. So we certainly haven't closed the door on further discussions, and we'll be happy to consider that again.
And not back and forth, I did do some research on that. City code does say that during an election, the council must meet on Thursday. That was the only thing that I could find in city code requirement. Thank you again for your consideration.
Could you say that again?
The city code does require that council meet on the Thursday, it is in city code, after an election. So that would be the only thing that I could find in city code which would require and lock in a potential conflict on Thursday. Thank you, folks.
Right. All right, are there others who would like to make public comment to the school board this evening? Seeing none, then if you glance on down through the rest of the agenda items, you will see that we're ready to actually begin with Mr. Spencer for closing comments.
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Dr. Osborne.
I hope for each of you that you have weather next week that is just like we've had this week.
Yay. Good comment.
Mr. Gould?
I want to echo Dr. Osborne's hope for good weather next week and wish everyone a very healthy and happy spring break. Want to thank Congressman Hurt and his office for hosting breakfast this morning for local elected officials in our region that several of us were able to attend, and we appreciate everything that he does to keep the lines of communication open for all levels of government, federal, state, and local. Want to congratulate, and I know I'm going to be the first of 4 people to do this, want to congratulate Caleb Adams on his success so far, and we wish him nothing but the best when he travels to D.C. We know that he will represent us extraordinarily well.
Dr. Campbell?
I would like to also echo about Caleb. Is always a pleasure for this board to hear positive things from students. We deal with enough disciplinary issues, and this is a breath of fresh air when we can see the accomplishment that he has made and how he continuously will make Danville look so very, very smart. And so we're appreciative of that. I want to also say to Dr. Paul Hamus that I appreciate you explaining in a detailed way about ERIP, because there has been a lot of questions and persons that are hearing things as I've heard you say in the past from the rumor mill. And so I want to thank you for taking your time to explain that because we want the best for you. And we are not trying to steal or try to hurt your future plans. So I wanted to certainly thank you for extending yourself and taking our time to explain in detail about ERIP. Of course, Mr. Gould had mentioned about taking a break, and I'm sure that I've heard many teachers and principals that you've already made your plans in regard to what you're going to do. And we look forward to seeing you back real soon. I would also like to just mention, if I could, that we work with City Council. We meet periodically, and I would like to say that Councilman Alonzo Jones, who our heart goes out to, condolences for the loss of his sister. And so certainly we know that he will push and press towards a brighter day. And so I know this board, our heart goes out to him. I'd also like to say that we're somewhat in the 4th quarter. And in the past, we've had situations with pranks. And I hope that for parents that you will certainly advise your child that this is absolutely not acceptable. And I know it's been as they say, a tradition. But if that happens, then there are going to be consequences for your action. And so please advise your child not to perform this kind of act as we move forward, because we've experienced this almost every year. And so I wanted to just bring that to your attention. I will say it again at the next school board meeting, so we will not have this kind of issue. Many of you know that this is a Passion Week, and I hope that we will certainly take out time to know what this season is all about. I want to say to my colleagues, it's a joy to work with you, and I said all I said tonight because we do not have all our board members here, so I felt like I could take just a little bit extra time. And I'm sure many of you are excited that we're getting out a little early tonight. So maybe this can continue as we move forward. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Hall?
I echo my colleagues' comments, especially appreciative of Dr. Campbell's friendly reminder about the senior prank, or any prank this time of year. That is so very important. Thank you for thinking of that. I want to thank all of our librarians for the impact that they have on our students. They just play such an important role every day in our schools. I want to wish Caleb the best of luck in DC. I want to thank Mrs. Dawson for your wonderful presentation, and it was so evident your passion for Caleb, and that is so appreciative. I so appreciate that, and for the support that his mother shows him every day. So, and also to say to all of our employees, I am hopeful they'll have a beautiful spring break week, and happy Easter to everyone. Thank you.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Thank you. My colleagues have already touched many very important messages in their comments. Dr. Campbell, thank you for starting to remind these young people not to do anything that they're going to regret. That's a message we do need to continue giving on a regular basis. So thank you for starting that. And to Caleb, absolutely wonderfully done. And we're so excited to have a Danville Public Schools student going to our nation's capital to represent us in the National Spelling Bee. That is just great. I was slipped a little note here that says that I misspoke. It says there is normally no public hearing on the draft 3, only on drafts 1 and 2, which I had forgotten, and I appreciate getting that update so I could correct my misstatement. But I think that there are ample opportunities as that information comes out in a couple of weeks that you can reach board members by email or telephone calls or personal notes. We are eager to get public input and employee input at each step along the way so that we can really craft a budget that will best serve all of our students. We thank you for your presence tonight. I trust that the wishes for a continuation of the great weather will hold true, and get a little refreshment, and then let's hit that last quarter running.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to adjourn with a vocal second over there. So that was Ms. Hall with Dr. Campbell. Is there any discussion on that possibility? Then you may call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes, indeed. Thank you all, and good night.